There are moments in life that are supposed to be sacred. Moments where time stops and the world holds its breath to honor the gravity of what is happening. For me, that moment was the day we laid my wife to rest. Helen was my rock. She was the music in my silent world, the warmth in my cold bones. We had been married for 42 years, and I thought I knew what love was until I met her. I thought I knew what pain was until I lost her. She passed quietly on a Tuesday morning. The nurse said she just let go, as if she was waiting for me to step out of the room so she could slip away without me seeing. I was in the cafeteria getting her a cup of tea, a habit, something to do with my hands. By the time I got back to the room, her hand was cold. I remember holding it, thinking, this isn't right. She's not cold. Helen is never cold. She was always warm. She used to say I was her personal heater, stealing the blankets at night. But that morning, she was just gone. The funeral was a blur of rain and black umbrellas. People murmured words that I couldn't hear. They passed me like ghosts, muttering their apologies, which felt empty and hollow. I just stood there, staring at the coffin, waiting for her to sit up and tell me this was a joke. She loved practical jokes. But this time, the silence was permanent. My son, Mark, was there. He stood beside me for a while, looking uncomfortable. He wasn't much for showing emotion. His wife, Kim, was on the other side, holding a tissue to her face but not crying. She was a sharp woman, Kim. Always had a plan, always had an angle. I never liked the way she looked at Helen, like she was assessing her value. I know people say sons marry their mothers, but Mark married the exact opposite. Helen was soft, loving, and giving. Kim was calculating, cold, and taking. As the priest said the final prayer, Kim leaned into Mark and whispered something. Mark nodded. He looked back at me for a second, and I saw something flash in his eyes. Was it pity? Or was it guilt? I didn't think much of it then. I was in a fog. A thick, gray fog of grief that made my ears ring and my legs weak. When the service ended, I was supposed to go back home. My home. The house I built with Helen. The house where we raised our children. The house that held 42 years of memories. I watched Mark and Kim walk to their car. Kim was on her phone, typing furiously. I figured she was dealing with work or the caterers. She was always so busy. I got in my car, an old sedan, and started the long drive back to the house on Maple Street. I was going to go in, pour myself a glass of whiskey, and sit in Helen's chair. I was going to smell her perfume on the cushion and pretend she was just in the other room, folding laundry. I needed that. I needed to be in that house. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Kim's car was already there. That was strange. She never came to the house unless there was a family dinner or a holiday. I thought maybe she was picking up a casserole dish she had loaned us. I walked up the steps to the front door, my knees aching, my heart heavy. I put the key in the lock, but it wouldn't turn. I rattled the knob. I pushed against the wood. I tried the key again, jiggling it, twisting it with a force I didn't know I still possessed. Nothing. The lock was different. The brass handle that Helen had polished every Saturday morning was gone. In its place was a shiny, brand new keypad lock. The kind you need a code to open. I stood there, frozen. My brain couldn't process it. Was I at the wrong house? No. The flower bed was there. The porch swing Helen had insisted on buying was creaking in the wind. This was my house. My home. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Kim's heels clicking on the concrete path. Dad, she said. She called me Dad, but she never meant it. It was a weapon, a way to remind me I was supposed to be her family. Kim, the lock, I started to say. I can't get in. She folded her arms. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sad. She looked triumphant. I changed them, Dad. I must have misheard her. What? She sighed, the same way a principal sighs when they have to explain something to a stupid child. The house is too big for one old man, she said. The words hung in the air, sharp and pointed. You don't need this much space. The taxes are a nightmare. Mark and I have been talking, and we think it's time you moved somewhere smaller. A nice little condo, maybe by the lake, or a home. A nice retirement home where there are nurses to look after you. Mark is worried about you. I looked past her to the living room window. I could see the silhouette of Helen's favorite lamp, the one with the stained glass shade. It was still on. I had left it on that morning. Kim, my wife's clothes are in there. Her jewelry. My tools. My life is in there. Don't worry about it, she said, waving a hand dismissively. Mark and I will have the movers pack everything up. We'll store it. You can come sort through it at the storage unit if you want. But you need to understand, Dad, things are changing. We're doing this for you. My blood, which had felt like it was turned to ice, started to boil. This wasn't for me. This was theft. This was a power play. Kim had been eyeing this house since the day she married Mark. She hated living in their cramped starter home. She wanted the garden, the 4 bedrooms, the big kitchen. And now that Helen was gone, she saw her chance. I looked at her. Where is Mark? Mark is at the house clearing out the master bedroom, she said. He's getting the big stuff. He'll be here soon. The master bedroom. The room where Helen took her last breath. The room where I held her hand. They were clearing it out. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I didn't beg for closure. You see, in that moment, standing on my own porch, locked out of my own life, I realized something. I realized that grief can make you blind, but it also makes you see things very, very clearly. Kim wasn't just a greedy daughter-in-law. She was a predator, and predators take advantage of the weak. But I wasn't weak. I was just heartbroken. She handed me a small envelope. These are the keys to the condo we've rented for you. The first month is paid. Good luck, Dad. She walked past me, her heels clicking on the wooden porch, and she went inside. The door shut. The deadbolt clicked. I was locked out of my house. I stood there in the rain. It had started to drizzle again. I looked at the envelope in my hand. I could have gone to the condo. I could have accepted my defeat. I could have faded away. But then I remembered Helen's words. She used to say, John, you are the most stubborn man I know, but that's why I love you. You never give up. I crumpled the envelope in my fist. I didn't look back at the house. I got in my car and I drove away. But I wasn't driving to the condo. I was driving to the one person who could actually help me. The one person whose name was actually on that deed. My daughter, Sarah. Sarah wasn't just my daughter. She was my mirror. She had my stubbornness and Helen's heart. She was also a successful lawyer, though I always figured she went into that profession because she liked to argue with me. But she was smart. She had her own life, her own family, and she was the one person I knew who would fight for me. When I showed up at her door, soaking wet and looking like a lost dog, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me in, wrapped a blanket around me, and made me tea. She knew the funeral was today. She had wanted to come, but she was representing a client in a critical hearing that morning. She had promised to be there the next day for the family gathering. Dad, what happened? She asked, her voice calm but her eyes searching. I told her. I told her about the locks, about the condo, about Kim clearing out the house as we spoke. I saw her face change from concern to shock, and then from shock to anger. But it was a cold anger. The kind of anger a lawyer gets when they smell a case. She set her teacup down. She changed the locks? The very same day? While you were burying your wife? I nodded. And she told you to move to a condo? The first month is paid, I said, feeling the shame wash over me. Sarah stood up. She started pacing. Listen to me, Dad. Mom left that house to you. It's in the will. It is your property, free and clear. Kim doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. She's counting on you being too sad, too weak, to fight back. I looked at the floor. I just want to go home, Sarah. I want to sleep in my bed. I just want to be near her things. I know, Dad, and you're going to go home, but we're going to do this right. You said Mark is there. I think so. She grabbed her phone. Don't call them, I said. I don't want to scream at them. I don't want to beg. You won't have to, she said. I'm not calling Mark. I'm calling the police. Police? Dad, this is an illegal eviction. They are trespassing on your property. We are going to show up there with the police, and we are going to watch Kim's face fall when she realizes she doesn't control the world. Felt weird going to my own house with a police escort. Felt like a movie. Sarah drove me. She had the deed in her briefcase. She had the will. She was prepared for war. When we pulled up to the house, the lights were on in the living room. I could see Kim directing the movers. They were taking out our dining table. The table where we had celebrated every Thanksgiving for 40 years. I wanted to jump out of the car, but Sarah grabbed my arm. "Wait," she said. The police car pulled up next to us. 2 officers got out. Sarah walked up to them, confident and poised. She explained the situation, showing them the deed and the ID. "I see," the officer said, nodding. He walked up to the door and knocked. The door opened. It was Mark. He looked pale when he saw me. He looked even paler when he saw the police. "Dad? What is this?" "Step aside, son," the officer said. "We've had a report of an illegal eviction." Kim appeared behind Mark. She had a clipboard in her hand. She was wearing an apron. She had the nerve to be organizing my kitchen while I was mourning. "Officers," she began, trying a charming smile. "There seems to be a misunderstanding." Sarah stepped forward. "There's no misunderstanding. This house belongs to my father. You were not given permission to change the locks. You are trespassing." "This is a family matter," Kim snapped. "You don't need to get the law involved, Sarah." "I'm a lawyer, Kim," Sarah said calmly. "I always get the law involved. That's how I win." The officers told the movers to stop packing. They told Kim and Mark to step outside. I saw the look on Kim's face. It was a mask of shock and fury. She wasn't used to being told no. "We had an agreement," she shouted at me. "You told us you would move. You said—" "I said nothing," I interrupted, my voice finally steady. "I said nothing to you. You locked me out of my own home on the worst day of my life. You have no right." Mark looked at me, then at Sarah. "Dad, we thought you'd be happier in a smaller place." We thought, Sarah snapped. "You didn't think. You acted like vultures." Sarah turned to the officers. "I want them to vacate the premises immediately. We'll press charges if they don't." Kim looked at Mark. "Do something." But Mark was silent. He looked like he was about to cry. I think he finally realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had chosen his wife over his father, and his wife had dragged him into something ugly. They grabbed a few bags and left. Kim was screaming in the driveway about how she was going to sue. Sarah just waved her hand. "Go ahead, Kim. I'll bury you in legal fees." That night I sat in my living room. It was quiet. The furniture was rearranged. Some of it was missing. But I was home. I sat in Helen's chair and I cried. But that wasn't the end of the story. Kim was humiliated. She had been publicly shamed by the police and kicked out of the house. She isn't the type to forget something like that. She decided she was going to fight back. A few weeks later, I got served with a lawsuit. Kim was claiming that Helen had promised the house to Mark and her. She was claiming undue influence, saying that I had manipulated Helen into leaving the house to me. It was a lie, a desperate, pathetic lie. Sarah took the case. She decided to fight fire with fire. She didn't just hire a lawyer. She decided to reveal the truth about Kim. While Kim was suing me for the house, Sarah was digging into Kim's life, and she found gold. "Dad," she said one evening, looking at her laptop, "you're not going to believe this." "What is it?" Kim has been involved in a real estate scam for years. She's been forging signatures on deeds. She's taken money from elderly people, selling their property out from under them. She's a con artist, Dad. She didn't just want your house. She has a whole operation. I stared at her. "Are you serious?" "She has a record," Sarah said. "A sealed juvenile record for fraud. And her maiden name matches a case in Nevada where an old woman lost her house to a caretaker who moved in. It's her dad. She's been doing this for 20 years. She just got better at hiding it." Sarah didn't file a counterclaim just for the house. She filed a criminal complaint. The police opened an investigation. Mark was brought in for questioning. The pressure was immense. He had no idea Kim was a professional swindler. He just thought she was a tough businesswoman. He came to see me. He was a broken man. "Dad, I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know. I thought she just wanted a bigger house. I didn't know about the rest of it." I looked at my son. He was naive. He was a fool. But he was my son. "You listened to her, Mark. You let her push me out. You were going to throw your father out on the street." "I know. I don't know how to fix it." "You can't fix it," I said. "But you can get out of the hole you're digging. Help her go to trial or help her disappear. But don't drag me into her mess anymore." Mark finally did the right thing. He turned on her. He provided evidence that Kim had forged my signature on a power of attorney document he had signed. He testified against her. The trial was a spectacle. Kim tried to act the victim. She cried. She claimed I was a sexist old man who wanted to control her. But Sarah was relentless. She presented forensic experts who proved the signatures were false. She presented the victims from other states, elderly people who had lost everything. I sat in that courtroom and watched the woman who had tried to destroy me be destroyed herself. She looked at me, and there was pure hatred in her eyes. But I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing but sadness. She had wasted her life chasing things that didn't matter. She had broken my son's heart. She had ruined her own life. The judge was a no-nonsense man who had seen it all. He didn't care about Kim's tears or her designer suits. He cared about the law. He found Kim guilty on all charges. The eviction was not only legal, but it was also protected by law. He ruled that not only was the house mine, but that Kim owed me damages for the emotional distress she caused. But that was just the monetary part. The bigger punishment was real. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison for fraud and forgery. The judge made an example of her. "The defendant's cruelty is matched only by her greed," the judge said. "She preyed on the vulnerable, using the guise of family to commit theft. This is a violation of trust that cannot be overlooked." Kim went to prison. Mark lost his wife. He was finally free of her, but he had to live with the shame of what he had allowed to happen. He moved into a small apartment and tried to rebuild his life. I invited him for dinner sometimes. It was awkward. There was a lot of pain between us. But he was my son. I didn't want to lose him too. Sarah, my shining star, was the hero of the story. She got the house for me. She protected me when I was too weak to protect myself. We sold the house, not because I wanted to, but because I was tired. It was just a building now. It was full of ghosts. I donated the bulk of the money to a charity that helps elderly victims of financial abuse. As for me, I moved into a little cottage by a lake, just as Kim had suggested, but on my own terms. I paid cash for it. I go fishing every morning. I have a dog named Scout. I sit on my porch and I realize that while Kim's betrayal was devastating, it brought Sarah and me closer together. The justice wasn't just in the courtroom. The justice was in the truth coming out. The justice was in the healing. You see, son, this world is full of people who will try to take your happiness, take your land, or take your memories. They'll wait for you to be weak. They'll wait for you to be alone. But remember this. You are never alone if you have the truth on your side. And you are never weak if you have a daughter who loves you. Kim thought she was getting a house. Instead, she got a prison cell. And I got a second chance at peace. And that, right there, is better than any property in the world. Years passed. I visited Helen's grave with Scout. I placed a stone on her headstone, a small gesture. "I miss you," I whispered. "But you sent me a guardian angel. I don't think I will ever remarry. I had the best. But I will never forget the day Kim changed those locks. I realized that day that you can't choose your children, but you can teach them. You can teach them that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. It's about showing up when it matters most." As for Kim, she served her time. She got out. But the world is a different place for a convicted felon. She's a ghost now, living in a world that doesn't trust her. And she made that bed all by herself. I guess the lesson here, for all of you listening, is this. Life will knock you down. People will betray you. But the paper trail, the truth, will always survive. Get it in writing. Keep your heart open, but keep your eyes open too. And if you're ever feeling lost, remember the story of the old man who got locked out of his home on the worst day of his life. He didn't give up. He called his daughter, and she answered,